In the early 1970s, all over the country, late-night weekend television had us dared to be scared. At the time, horror shows were all the rage. Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Twilight Zone, and a daily scary soap opera called Dark Shadows. My brother had to leave the house when we watched. That's how terrifying the vampires were at 3 in the afternoon. But back to late night. In Nashville, a full-time film editor and sometime thespian created a character kids of a certain generation still talk about. In a shag-carpeted den on a black and white console TV, this introduction was guaranteed to set the mood.
Each of us carries upon his shoulders this bony sarcophagus, the grinning face of death. Within it resides the human brain, encompassing within its pulsating gray mass the totality of the cosmic consciousness. What a delicate instrument. This is Creature Feature, exploring the realm of the unknown. And now, from deep within the catacombs beneath our studio, here is your Master of Terrormonies, Sir Cecil Creape.
Did someone call? Oh, there you are.
Sir Cecil is but one of the local scare celebrities who enjoyed a full 15, maybe even 20 minutes of fame. And author Larry Underwood knows why.
You know, back then there's only, I think, 4 stations at the time. So when something's on the air, it's a big deal. It's amazing how he became just a rock star at the time. It was just the perfect timing to hit, you know, the monster craze of the 60s had hit, the Monsters, the Addams Family, all that, Dark Shadows, all that kind of stuff was going on. And then he's coming on at night and kids are watching.
And now on Community Access, we can watch Larry himself, better known as Dr. Gangrene. I'm Demetria Kaladimos. It's a scary Banner and Company. Larry, you are approaching 30 years with an alter ego. Dr. Gangrene, physician of fright. Your
Yes.
parents must have been so proud.
You know, they actually were big supporters of the show, believe it or not.
But that was as close as you got to medical school?
Oh, yeah. I always say, I'm not a doctor. I play one on TV.
Exactly.
I get to drop that line for real.
As a native Nashvilleian, what was your first scary movie, and do you remember where you might have seen it?
Boy, it's hard to pin down. I've been asked that before. It's hard to pin down the exact first one. I would guess Frankenstein or a Frankenstein film. And I remember seeing them on The Big Show, which was an afternoon show in Nashville, a show that ran, they would do theme weeks, which I remember very well, a whole week of Creature from the Black Lagoon movies or Frankenstein films. Made a big impression on me. You
know, it's hard to watch any movie with multiple commercial breaks, but especially a scary movie.
True. Turner Classic Movies is amazing for that reason.
Yeah. Why do we like to be scared? I read somewhere that it, builds resiliency for the real thing. You know what you're going to do when you are in a terrifying situation.
Yeah, I think it's just escape. It's just a form of escapism. It's like a roller coaster ride. We get on these roller coasters and you go up and your heart goes up in your throat for a second and then you get off and you go, wow, that was so great. But it's kind of like that with scary movies too, I think.
You were an artist, though, growing up, always doodling. always drawing monsters, I take it?
Yeah, monsters and comic books, superheroes, but yeah, always into the horror comics and monsters, and yeah, always.
But it was serious. It was more than just a pastime, right?
Sure, I wanted to be a comic book artist, and did for a while in the early 90s. That was my passion for sure.
And what were you drawing? What would people know?
Well, we self-published a line of comic books. We had our own comic book company, and they started out as horror comics, of course, and they were horror anthologies with several artists locally. And then we did some superhero stuff later too. It was called Out of the Cellar Comics, the first name of our company, and then we later changed it to Volunteer Comics. I had the bright idea that I thought that would increase sales. Volunteer Comics, that sounds good. No, it didn't help any. We should have stuck with Out of the Cellar. That was a much cooler name.
And are they collector's items now, or can you still find them?
You know, one of them was, because it's called Best Sellers, spelled with a C, Sellers, like Out of the Cellar. It had the first published artwork from Eric Powell, who would go on to a super successful career as a comic book artist with a character called Monster Boy, and his prototype for that character was in our book. I've seen them go for several $100s on eBay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Who was your signature character, or did you have one?
I did. It was called Killer Whale, and it was complete comedy, superhero, a fat guy in a whale suit that ran around, and it was completely ludicrous. It's modeled after The Tick, if anybody knows that comic book. So it was complete horror. I mean, humor, excuse me.
So you were using traditional materials, paper, pencil, pen and ink. What were you doing?
Yeah, that's it. Pen and ink and pencil.
Pre-tablet.
Oh, yeah. This was the early 90s, so this would have been, 91 to 96 or so.
So how did you ever go from drawing to getting in front of a camera?
I had dabbled with the idea of doing some television work at one point. I remember when the cable access station in Nashville first opened, they had advertised in the paper, you too can make your own TV show. Come to our meeting. So I went to a meeting and sat through it, but I didn't have an idea in mind. I was in college at the time, so I didn't have the time for it or the motivation. So I went to the meeting, I listened to what they had to say. It was in one ear and out the other. But then years later, after doing the comic books for a while, had a new son born. We moved to Hendersonville from Nashville. I'm a native Nashvilleian, lived here my whole life. And so when we got there, I met a guy named Jack Wood who had a local cable access TV show. This thing called Stanley Static. It's this crazy humor show, kind of like, I guess, a redneck Pee Wee Herman is kind of a good description of it. And it was just wacky, but it was popular locally. And I met the guy. He lived 2 blocks down the road from me, just one street over. And so we became friends, and he was over at the house one day, and I was asking all these questions like, hey, Jack, how long does it take you to make a show? And how long does it take to edit? Where do you shoot? And he finally looked at me and he said, you want to do this, don't you? And I said, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think I have time for that. He goes, no, I think you should. I think you'd be good at it. And I took the ball and ran with it.
Did you know immediately I want to do horror?
That was the first idea, to do a show like Sir Cecil Creape's. Nobody else was doing one that I knew of at the time. And so I thought, you know what? If nobody else will do it, that'd be something fun to do. So I called Chuck, who was my partner with the comic book company. And I said, hey, Chuck. And Chuck had done some short films. So he had experience behind the camera and zero interest in front of the camera, Chuck Angel. So I said, hey, Chuck, I've got an idea for what we're going to do next. He said, okay, what? I said, we're going to do a cable access TV show. We're going to do a horror host show. And Chuck says he thought it would last about 4 weeks.
And here we are.
Here we are 27 years later.
Yeah. Now, how did you find Dr. Gangrene? Was he in your imagination, and I know the name came from somewhere too.
Yeah. So I started brainstorming, what am I going to do? Am I going to do a vampire? Because I wanted to do a costume character because, again, I was thinking about Sir Cecil Creape, who was the host in the 1970s. And so I work at a hospital for my day job. So that kind of got me thinking along those lines. And I started asking some of the research doctors that I'm friends with, and they started donating lab equipment, like, hey, here's a beaker, here's a flask. And so I got this stuff, and I thought, okay, mad scientist, I guess that's it. And the name Dr. Gangrene came because at the time, the TV show ER was super popular. And the character Dr. Green on ER was played by Anthony Edwards, who I was getting stopped in the hospital at least once a week and told, hey, you look like that guy from ER. And they were talking about Dr. Green. So Dr. Gangrene is a play on words from Dr. Green.
I'm Demetria Kalodimos. It's Banner and Company. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by San Pellegrino Ciao. A gift from Italy to your home. San Pellegrino Ciao is a flavored sparkling water made with real fruit juice, finished with a pinch of Sicilian salt for a perfectly balanced taste. So which flavor will you choose? Peach, lime, blood orange, cherry, or maybe the all-new limoncello? Crafted in Italy with 0 grams of added sugar. San Pellegrino Ciao. Buy it now.
We're here also to talk about TV horror hosts near and far. I grew up in Chicago with the original creature features that at first didn't have a host at all, and then morphed into a guy named Svengoolie, who was more funny than scary, really. Let's talk Nashville, though. The first here was a fella named Ken Bramming.
That's right. Dr. Lucifur was the character.
His voice could be heard even after he passed away on the oldies radio station. I mean, he was a legit, serious announcer, right?
Yes, he was. Had the silky smooth, great voice. At one time was called Nashville's only, I forget the word they call it, but professional talent voice at the time. We're talking the 1950s. He was a radio personality, television personality. He was quite the talent.
And Dr. Lucifur he was particular about spelling that, correct?
Yes, he was. When the show first aired, it started in 1957. And when it first aired, all the newspapers spelled it Lucifer, like ER, like you normally would. But in an interview with Jeff Thompson later, he told him the preferred spelling is UR because he didn't want it to be mistaken for the devil. So I think that's something that he sort of grew into, but I don't think it was on his mind when he started the show.
Late 50s, what station are we talking?
It was Channel 8, which famously swapped places with Channel 2. They did an on-the-air, channel swap. The two changed places.
And Dr. Lucifur was doing what? Introducing movies very seriously? Was he funny? Was he scary?
Yeah, so this show his character was serious, but the show had skits, kind of like an Ernie Kovacs kind of thing. So it was a lot of little funny skits that they would break up the show with these skits. And this was all live television because there was nothing pre-recorded. Other than the intro and close of his show, those were recorded on film. The rest of it was all done live. So live TV, you know how that goes. You would have gaffes and things go crazy. I'm sure from your news
falls.
days. You know. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You had an entire flat fall one time and had to just keep going. It's like, that's part of it.
And it usually builds audience. The more the mistakes are made, the more people want to watch.
Oh, yeah. That's funny stuff. I remember seeing, I think it was Tom Seiler one time laughing, and he bent over and hit his head on the desk. I thought I was going to die laughing.
So where did the movies come from? Did they buy them as a package?
Yes. Back in 1957, there was a very famous package called the Shock package of films. It was licensed nationwide to television stations all over the country, and Nashville was one of the ones that picked it up. They named the show Shock after the package of films, and it was all Universal classics.
We were talking Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon, what else?
Yeah, Frankenstein, The Wolfman, Dracula. All that good stuff.
How long were those movies? Because again, they were usually cut up with commercial breaks, so you didn't get a sense of how long they were.
Yeah, a lot of them were short, around an hour. just over an hour in length, which to me is the perfect. I to this day think a 1 hour movie is the perfect film length. I think an hour and a half is a little bit too long. 30 minutes is too short. I love quick paced. If it's quick paced and written correctly, a 1 hour length film is perfect for me.
And would they rerun?
Yeah, he did show reruns because he was on the air quite a while.
Now, the best known probably of all in this market will always be Sir Cecil Creape. And there's an E on the end of Creape.
That's right. It looks like crepe, but it's pronounced creep.
Tell us about our old friend Russ McCown, who was the real man behind Sir Cecil.
That's right. WSMV, of course, WSM TV at the time. Sir Cecil Creape was a hunchback that supposedly lived under Channel 4 studios in the catacombs deep below Channel 4. The voice for his show each week, his show was called Creature Feature, that was voiced by Ken Bramming, who was Dr. Lucifur. He did the intro of every episode. That was his voice you heard. But yeah, Russ, his show was complete humor, and he was always this hunchback coming down into the catacomb, and some crazy, shenanigans going on that usually would end badly, and he would go back, good night, and give his signature phrase, good night, sleep tight, don't let the beddy bugs bite. And go off stage each time, and showed a wide variety of movies. They were lesser quality than what Dr. Lucifur got to show, but the show was wildly popular. We're talking 71 to 73 were the years.
So only 2 years, but it caught on.
Yeah, it's amazing how he became just a rock star at the time. It was just the perfect timing to hit, the monster craze of the 60s had hit, and everything there was a lot of horror kind of ish stuff on the, in the air at the time. The Monsters, the Addams Family, all that Dark Shadows, all that kind of stuff was going on. And then he's coming on at night. And, back then there's only, I think, 4 stations at the time. So when something's on the air, it's a big deal, and the kids are watching. And he really caught on.
And late at night, because TV used to sign off.
That's right. So he would close the station out. So 10:30 at night's when his show started.
Now, a few little lesser-known details. That set was pretty impressive.
It was. Other horror hosts, myself included, were jealous of his set because it was so nice, and it was permanently stationed right there at Channel 4. You know the way that Channel 4 is laid out. Right when you came in, right to the left there, that big window looked over the studio, and they had his set in there permanently. I guess the news desk was on the other side.
Yeah. The drip started. That was the first thing you heard when the piece started.
Yeah.
What do you know about that drip?
So, I talked to Elmer Alley, who was the program director for the show, and he told me he recorded that drip in his kitchen sink.
And it was incessant. It never stopped. Also, there was a human skull.
Yes. It was a real skull that he had borrowed from a friend and painted it gold and never gave it back. So it lived on the mantelpiece there, and the show opened on that skull and would pan down and then come into a wide shot of the studio, and he would enter down some stairs.
There was also, trivia buffs will remember, a photo of someone on the mantle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was, I'm sorry.
Floyd Kephart.
Floyd Kephart. Thank you. My mind went blank for a second there. And I'll tell you why it went blank is because I almost did the same thing with you.
Really?
Yes.
What?
For my show, I always thought it would be so funny to do as a tribute to him, and I wanted to put a picture of you. And I referred to you several times on the show, and it was as a tribute to Russ, and you were one of the local, TV people at the time. So.
I am honored. You didn't refer to me as like some sort of name of an illness.
No, I did call a mummy the Kalidimos one time because
really?
I thought it was a Greek mummy. Who would guess?
We were talking about how this took off. You've got some photos in your book, Masters of Terrormonies, of Sir Cecil's public appearances. where and who would show up, and they were big deals.
Oh, yeah, hundreds of kids. The one he did at 100 Oaks Mall, he was absolutely swamped with kids. It's wild. I wish that I had been able to watch his show. My parents were pretty conservative, at the time. My mom just really didn't let me stay up late and watch that kind of stuff. And I remember asking, but no. So maybe it's the whole forbidden fruit thing, though. Maybe that's why, it was so much better. Or maybe that's what drove me to do what I'm doing now.
Now, did Sir Cecil have a fan club?
He did. And he would send out postcards, and there's a poster of Sir Cecil Creape. It's an illustration, hand-drawn, and one of the biggest compliments I ever got from my show, I came home from work. I don't think this is in the book. I came home from work one time, and there were a couple of packages for me, and my wife said, "Hey, you got some stuff in the mail?" I was like, "What is this?" It was a tube and another package. Inside of that tube was that poster, and in the package was some of the fan club material, and it was from a member of his family. And he said, "We just want to thank you for everything you've done to keep Russ's memory alive." And that was just a huge, that was exactly what I was shooting for.
Yeah. And Dr. Gangrene pays tribute permanently on his lab coat, doesn't he?
He does. When I was a kid, I was in the Scouts, the Cub Scouts, and then later the Boy Scouts. And something that Russ did, that they did for the show, is they had a patch that's Sir Cecil's Ghoul Patrol, and they gave it out to kids. It was a embroidered patch with his face on it. It says Sir Cecil's Ghoul Patrol around the edges of the patch. And my mom had sewn all of the patches that I got in Scouts on the back of a blue jean jacket. And I remembered that after I started shooting the show, so I took it off and I sewed it on the breast coat pocket of my lab coat, and I wear it to this day.
Let's talk about some of the other stations that got into the act. We said, Dr. Lucifur started it all, but the Count of Five.
Yeah, WTVF over at Channel 5. Yeah, he started in 77, same year as Star Wars, and ran into the early 80s, about 82, 83. It's hard to know exactly when. The newspapers didn't. He didn't get anywhere near the kind of support that Sir Cecil did. They didn't list. They would list movies, but not necessarily that it was part of his show, and so you never knew which movie was actually him hosting it. And they would bump his time slot around. Sometimes he would run right after the news. Sometimes it was 1 a.m. So.
And he was a vampire-based character?
He was a vampire. The Count of Five, and played by a guy named Bob McGee, who is still here. Bob is battling cancer right now. Oh. So, yeah, he's been dealing with that the last few years. But happy to say he's doing well, and was able to interview him for the book and for the hope to be hope to be completed one day companion documentary that we're working on for the book.
Fantastic. Also, people will remember the name Coyote McCloud from the radio. Coyote hosted a creature feature of sorts?
Yeah, and that was one that I was not really that aware of when I started the show, but yes, he did. And it was the oddest setup of any horror host I've ever heard. Elvira's movie Macabre was really big in the 80s. It started in 1983.
Where was Elvira? West Coast?
Yeah, she was in L.A., but it was nationally syndicated. She beat Russ. So Russ McCown came back in the 1980s with the Phantom of the Opry on TNN. So he was nationally syndicated. She beat him to it by like a year. In 1983, she started Movie Macabre, and Coyote McCloud and the station brought Coyote McCloud in to host Elvira hosting her movies.
So localize the national host.
Exactly. Yeah. And they did an Elvira lookalike contest at a club locally, and a woman named Rhonda Jones won, and they brought her in, and Coyote got along so well, they just had her be a permanent cast member. So the two of them would host Elvira hosting the movie.
Was that on 17?
Yes. Yes, on Channel 17. And it was an odd setup. They would come in to the middle of the show as well as the beginning and the end. And yeah, that's kind of what they later had a second show called Scary Tale Theater, which was a traditional hosted show.
And I was amazed to read that the late Phil Valentine, probably best known as a conservative talk show host, even though I know he was a DJ, he was also a horror host?
He was. And when I found that out, I did an interview with him for Scary Monsters magazine one time. I called him at the station, and he was blown away that someone remembered it. I just love it because, when you think about creative arts, your mind, of course, goes to liberal-minded folks. It's liberal arts. It's called liberal arts for a reason. But it just goes to show you it's not about politics, that there are creative people all over the spectrum. Phil was a very creative guy. He had played in bands. He had done television. He had done radio. He had been in movies, an actor in movies, and he had done this horror host gig. It was very short-lived, but his character, Benedictine the Mad Monk, was heavily made up, speaking in a bad British accent.
Why is the bad British accent the accent of choice?
Everybody's trying to copy Bela Lugosi, I think, or Vincent Price. Yeah, they're trying to get that. It's that European thing, But
and Benedictine was on what channel?
Channel 17.
17 really liked that. I imagine these were inexpensive. I'm not going to say cheap, but inexpensive programs to put on for the most part.
Well, yeah, there wasn't any much support given. Once again, he had to kind of cobble together a makeshift set, Besides the first two hosts, nobody really had the kind of support that those guys did.
So what happened?
It just ran for a few weeks. I asked him why it ended. He said, I don't really know. I just came in one day and he said, we're not doing it anymore. So about 6 weeks, I think, 6, 8 weeks, something.
And is that the case for the whole genre of local horror hosts, too, that they just kind of faded away as there were other options to watch late at night?
It depends on the show. You mean nationally or local?
Well, both, I guess.
Yeah. Well, in some cases, like with The Count of Five, he said that their film library, they had pretty much used up all their horror stuff. And they got into a point where it was a drama with a kid who was dying from some disease. And he just went into Bill Jay's office and said, listen, I can't do this anymore. It's time to bury the count. I can't do anything funny with this movie, And I think he was tired of it. But on a national, from a national standpoint, it's like I was saying a little bit before, when there was only a few channels, a show was a big deal. And so it was easier to get a following. But now with the endless variety of entertainment options, it's easier to make a show, but it's harder to get an audience.
It's Banner and Company. And my guest is Larry Underwood, better known to some as Dr. Gangrene. We'll be right back.
Now, before I tell you about tonight's movie, we've got a very important piece of business that we do every show here. So we're going to recite Dr. Gangrene's Monster Kid Code of Horror. So everybody, if you would, raise your right hand, form it in the shape of a claw, and repeat after me. I am a monster movie maniac.
I'm a monster movie maniac.
I love blood and horror.
I love blood and horror.
I will howl at the full moon.
I will howl at the full moon.
And monsters are my friends.
And monsters are my friends.
I pledge my undying support.
So what brought you over to NECAT, and tell us that story?
Yeah, so I started the television show with Chuck Angel, as I mentioned, on cable access in Hendersonville, but I wanted to expand into Nashville. I'm a Nashville kid. I'm a Nashvilleian. My heart is here. I'm born and raised here and work here in Davidson County. So besides the fact that I live in Sumner, my heart is in Davidson. And so I wanted to be on the air here. And quickly, within a month or two, expanded, called the Nashville station, found out how to get the show on, and started running it on the air in Nashville.
How do you put it together? When do you tape, and how many do you tape at a time, and who writes the bits?
So the last year or so, couple of years, we've just been doing about 3 or 4 live shows a year. But when I'm actually in production on television shows, I shoot those at my house. Now that my kids have grown up and moved out, I converted one of their bedrooms into a set. And so I shoot there, and I do everything myself. I'm a one-man show. I got a little monitor on the wall. I've got a remote control. I've even got a teleprompter. I can start and stop the teleprompter. So I do it all myself. When we shoot the live shows, that's at NECAT Studio, and it's an entire production.
With a live band?
A live band.
And an audience?
Yeah. We just did one this past weekend, and I had the editor of the Nashville scene in, and I had an ambulance truck that sells VHS tapes out of the back of it. They drive around and do that. And I had a local band, the Creeping Cruds. And so, yeah, I mean, we had a good time.
One of my friends is in the Creeping Cruds. We'll talk about him
off
awesome. Camera.
Okay.
But a great guy. What do you get out of it?
It's a satisfaction. It's a personal satisfaction of carrying this legacy on. It means a lot to me. I did it as a way to bring to Nashville the kind of show I wanted to watch. And I read somewhere, it was an interview with Alice Cooper, and he was talking about why some of these old rockers are still doing it. And he said, we're lifers, man. We're lifers. This is what we do. We'll do it until we drop. And I think that's the same with me as the horror host, doing the horror host gig. I'm a lifer.
How has the Doctor matured?
He has changed over the years, I think, and sort of he and I are morphing into the same person on camera, more or less. I do less of a characterization, I guess is what I'm trying to say. In the beginning, I was talking with more of a raspy voice, and it was a little faster paced and more, and now I'm just sort of myself more on camera. I'm much more comfortable on camera. The costume has evolved over the years, and yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, it just changes costume and approach.
Yeah. What's the best bit you ever did that got the biggest laughs? Wow, that's a good question. I did one that we did on cable access. We burning a Billy the Big Mouth bass at the stake was pretty fun. We had a whole mob. I had 20 people in the angry mob chasing Dr. Gangrene, and that was pretty fun. Yeah. And you also produced a feature film?
We did. We did a Dr. Gangrene horror anthology. Cameron McCaslin, who runs the NECAT studio, and I did a Dr. Gangrene. We've done a couple of them. We did a short film first called The Dreadful Halloween Special that I did with another horror host from Boston named Penny Dreadful. She and I did this together, where the two of us save Halloween. And it's very much made to be like a 70s kids made-for-TV special. Shot 4:3, the whole thing. And then the new movie is called Dr. Gangrene's Tales from Parts Unknown. Cameron had made some short films, and as he would make them, we would collect them. The whole idea was to use these for the anthology, but he was getting double duty by playing them in film festivals, and so we collected them all into an anthology and put them out during COVID.
Who are the Doc's fans?
There is a whole, I run into them from time to time, group of people that say, I grew up watching Dr. Gangrene. And it is a huge honor when someone stops me and says, I grew up watching your show. They're kids in their 30s now that grew up watching me as a kid. And it's a local, very Nashville based. I've always said that horror hosting works best on the local level. And there are national hosts like Svengoolie, and that's awesome that he has that platform. And yeah, I would love to have a national program. But on the local level, that's your guy. Like you were talking about Jerry G. Bishop's Svengoolie in Chicago was your guy, and Sir Cecil was my guy. And that people, they get to know this personality, and that's their host that they become attached to.
Yeah. Did you ever watch SCTV and watch John Candy's Dr. Tongue's 3D House of Pancakes?
I've seen a little bit of that. Yeah. I remember, of course, Count Floyd also.
Oh, yeah, Count Floyd. Yeah. See, even the best television lampoon shows latched on to the local horror host as a sketch.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. What's next for Dr. Gangrene? I mean, if let's say, if National came calling and said, we need someone to do it, and it would go out nationwide, would that be the dream come true?
Sure. The dream is to have a package of films that and I had that when I was on the WB, in the 2000s. That's exactly what I did. To have that again up the station. I would love to have a little more support than I did from the station in that they didn't run ads for the shows and, all of that.
Promotion is everything.
It really is.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Like Svengoolie, I mentioned him again, Rich Coase in Chicago. They do a great job of MeTV, of advertising for his show. And that would be the dream.
And also muddying up the works is Sonny Bono in a weird way?
Yeah, I call him one of the three great villains of free speech. It's him and Frederick Wortham and Tipper Gore. Sonny put forward this legislation. It's called the Sonny Bono Act. And it went into effect in 1998, right before I started my show. And it put a freeze, a 20-year moratorium on public domain films. So there's been no movement from 98 to 2018, there was no movement of any films entering the public domain.
So tell me, what would be a potential for public domain? Like, you can't watch Frankenstein on broadcast TV right now?
So Frankenstein, 1931 films go into public domain January of next year. So I'm so excited. I can finally legally show Frankenstein and Dracula. And then, right behind that will be The Mummy and King Kong and all those great. But we would be up to 1951 films entering public domain had it not been for the Sonny Bono Act. All those great movies of the 30s and the 40s and then entering into the 50s with the giant monster movies would be right around the corner.
So kids, an entire generation has grown up without being able to watch this in their living room, unless they had the DVD or access to some sort of site, right?
Yeah, cable. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a little sad.
It is. And because of, Disney basically buying a congressman to put forward legislation to keep the mouse from entering public domain. That's what it was about.
Has Sonny Bono been a target of Dr. Gangrene on the air?
I've never really ranted about Sonny. I probably should. Like I said, him and Frederick Wortham, who, of course, attacked comic books in the 1950s, and Tipper Gore. I think I have done a Tipper Gore rant before.
Well, let me tell you, I am honored that my name has been uttered on several of your programs. And I'm sorry that I missed it live, but I'm happy to be a guest at some point in time.
Oh, that would be
great. If the invitation were to come.
You absolutely. It will get you on the next live show. If you're interested, I'll have you as a guest.
Awesome.
Okay.
Banner & Company is a production of the New Nashville Banner. This episode is produced by Steve Harouche and edited by me. The original music is by Verlin Thompson. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or go to NashvilleBanner.com. You're in good company. Our little tradition here on Banner & Company is that the final question is in the fishbowl.
Okay.
And don't worry, no piranhas in there.
Okay.
In fact, no fish of any kind.
Oh, well, then forget it. Okay, let me see what we got here. All right, should I read it? From Reverend Margie Quinn.
What is something that you love more and more the more that you do it?
Something I love more and more the more I do it. I mean, this horror host program is one. The longer it's gone, the bigger the audience, the more. One thing about my show, I didn't get to watch these shows as a kid, like I said. So I was discovering them along with my viewers in a lot of cases. And I've had people tell me that the early shows had a real authentic feel to them. And I think that's why. I think some of that enthusiasm for these movies came across in my host bits, because I really was enjoying these films. And so the more I've done this, the more weird stuff I've discovered, and, fun films and all that kind of thing. So I think that would be it.